Terraria has a lot of peculiar weapons, so it's no surprise that some can be easily missed altogether, even if the weapon in question can actually be quite useful in your playthroughs. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an extremely unique Hardmode Magic weapon that hardly anyone talks about, despite its weird firing style. Of course, I'm talking about the Blood Thorn. Not only is this weapon quite new coming in the 1.4 update, but it also finds itself in the sliver of pre-mech progression, which I think makes it very easy to miss. Before we jump into it, if you enjoy these little videos, don't forget to subscribe as it really helps out the channel. It'd be awesome to have you on the journey to the big 100k. Alright, let's first take a look at how you get this thing. As hinted by the name, the Blood Thorn is a blood moon fishing drop, meaning its method of obtainability is a bit weird. You of course first need to trigger the event itself, which can either have a 1 in 9 chance of occurring naturally at 7:30 PM, or be summoned manually with a bloody tear, which has a 1% chance of dropping from a range of blood moon enemies. However you summon your blood moon, you want to immediately head to a large body of water like the ocean and get casting that fishing line. While the event is active, you have a small chance to fish up some unique enemies. In particular, we're on the lookout for the Hemogoblin shark, which luckily is the most common one. If you're still having trouble fishing them though, don't forget to drink fishing potions and use the Chumcaster fishing rod to double your chances of finding them. Now, with the shark only having a 12.5% chance of dropping the Blood Thorn, you may need to kill quite a few before you get it. Thankfully, the sharks also drop chum buckets, which when thrown in the water, further increases your chances of fishing blood moon enemies. After 2 nights of farming, I managed to have one drop, but you could be much luckier and get it in only a few kills. Right then, let's take a look at what it can do. The best way I can describe the Blood Thorn is as a static projectile style version of the Life Drain. Basically, it summons penetrating blood thorns from the tiles nearest to the curse's position. When used in optimal scenarios, the Blood Thorn's single target DPS can actually be quite good and drastically outperform the Life Drain's DPS. However, both of these weapons aren't really designed for single targets, and therefore probably wouldn't be its main use case, so a real test would be against large groups. With the Blood Thorn's ability to pierce 4 enemies, the DPS is pretty good, but unfortunately, the uncapped piercing aura of the Life Drain still completely knocked it out the park when dealing with more than 4 enemies. So as a simple rule of thumb, against smaller size groups, the Blood Thorn will deal slightly more damage per target and still have the ability to attack anywhere on the screen assuming there's tiles. And if you're versing a tankier single target like this Bio Mimic, the Blood Thorn will take it out slightly faster than the Life Drain, assuming you hit all your shots. So now I guess the question is, what about bosses? Despite the Blood Thorn only being able to pierce 4 targets at a time, it still manages to annihilate the Destroyer, adding to the list of weapons that makes it a joke. So I guess if you're playing mage and don't fancy using a popular weapon, the Blood Thorn will still get the job done. Unfortunately though, as I later discovered, the fact it can only summon projectiles on tiles became more of an issue than I first anticipated. Basically, do not use this weapon against flying enemies, as it absolutely sucks. The short range made the twins fight unbearable, and the same could be said for the second phase of the Queen Slime, unfortunately resulting in my death. The fact is, I think this weapon finds itself in a difficult place. If we continue to compare it to the Life Drain, which is the most similar weapon I could find, not only is that also pre-mech, but I'd say is easier to obtain and able to deal damage anywhere on the screen without relying on platforms or blocks. And while the Blood Thorn can deal more DPS to a pretty reasonable amount of enemies, I think the improvement here is very small for the price you have to pay. I can see what Relogic tried to do here, balancing the weapons in different areas, but for the difficult obtainability alone, I'd just stick with the Life Drain. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this weapon. When I first used it, I figured it had great potential and could compete with other pre-mech weapons, but when you get past its unusual attack style, the actual performance just isn't good enough for me to warrant the pain of Blood Moon fishing. Thanks for watching. For more Terraria content like this, drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.